Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Midheaven Podcast. This is the Peace Dealer, chilling with my wonderful host, co-host, of course, Candace.
You can call me Beyond the Veil.
Beyond the Veil. Oh, yes.
What is it like not having a mic in your face? Are you trying to figure out what to do with your hands?
Honestly, right. I feel free.
People are going to be like, wait a second, what looks different? We are trying out our brand new state-of-the-art wireless mics.
Yes, they're this small.
Yeah, they're hidden.
We put them in our brains. So
yeah.
You hear in the brain
through a jab, huh?
Yep.
Mike got the jab.
All felt Oh! Yeah. Now that I have, particles inside me, it's easier to... I just embrace technology. I stopped being a conspiracy theorist.
I was watching those posts that you were putting about people who were having, silverware stick to them. What the fuck is that all about? That's some weird science shit.
Yeah, I mean, some people who've gotten it have said that they haven't gotten stuff stuck to them. So I guess it's safe to say that it's not everyone, or maybe the videos are fabricated. I don't want to believe that, though.
So what does this mean? So if you haven't had the shot, then you're supposed to have things stick to you?
Well, some people apparently got the placebo shot, so it's nothing in there. And then some people got the real shot where it sticks to you. So, yeah.
Is this backed by science?
Well, here's the thing. You do have certain scientists that do bring science, but they get censored. And then, of course, you have the people administering it who deny it.
So what
outright.
sticks to you?
Okay, so magnets, silverware, and it's usually on the side that the second or first dose was at, too.
But it doesn't affect people who haven't had the shot?
No.
Just people who have had the shot?
Just people who've had... Well, here's the thing. There are some people who've had the shot, and it doesn't stick on them. So... It is what it is. It would make sense if it's kind of like how not everyone got the tongue thing. You know how some people, their tongues just blew out of proportion because of the shot? Not everyone's tongues did. So maybe it's some kind of...
Just sounds like an excuse for a bunch of girls to be sticking spoons to their tits and being like, I told you. I imagine that's what's happening. When we're done, I'm going to go... Have you looked at photos? Of people doing this?
I don't know anyone personally that has it. I've just seen a few videos of certain people who.
How is that a bad thing?
There's different strains too, so maybe it depends on.
To me, that just sounds like you can carry more shit on you without having to carry anything. You're not gonna forget your house keys.
Someone threw a metal tray, and it stuck. Which is kind of.
They're probably just sticky. They're probably just sticky people, gross, sticky, moist, humid people.
No, that's not moistness. But maybe we don't know if maybe they had a metal plate stuck inside them beforehand and they're trolling. But I don't know. I think it's something that might affect a select number of people. Maybe or maybe it's just because there's different strands, right? So maybe it's one of the strains or whatever.
I just had to ask. I thought it was weird, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Now I'm gonna go deep into searching all of that in social media.
I did not get the jab, guys. In case
I didn't get it either.
So you're
I didn't
what?
get it either.
What?
I didn't get it. And I don't plan on it. So.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
That's very irresponsible.
Oh.
we depend on you.
Wait, what? You can't always be the fuck up. When is it my turn? Why can't I be the rebel? I want to be the bad guy too.
We're depending on you so we can all be safe.
Why? Because I'm white?
We need to be safe.
I gotta do my part? You think I'm my name's Barbara?
Barbara!
What?
Barbara Karen. Or Karen Barbara.
You look like a fucking drug dealer with your fucking beeper, with your pager.
You've heard this first. One day I'm gonna be the plug for Vegas. So all the people coming through, they need that white girl. I'm breaking evil out here. Okay, forget Walter White. It's a wrap. So by then I'd master horary because of my sensei Candace.
It's coming. I started taking a horary course. I'm very excited. I'm super stoked. I usually take a program every 2 years, so I do something different. I can do a lot of things people don't know that I can do. I have all my Reiki certifications, so technically I'm a level 3. I became a death midwife. I did a year-long program of death midwifery. I did a astro-herbalism course that took 2 years. I've gone through a few astrology courses. And so now I'm doing horary. And yes, I want to do horary so I can help clients, right? Like find missing objects or like find out like definite answers on the spot. Those of you guys who don't know, horary is casting the chart of where the planets are now. And you look at the chart the moment that the astrologer understands the question that's being asked. And then they analyze that and they give you an answer. So
I didn't know it was so in-depth. I thought it was just like this chart, that chart, yes, no.
So it's technically like a newer branch of astrology, even though it's been around for a while, but it's one of the newer branches. But apparently it's like the most accurate. And I've had a couple horary sessions actually. And one of the horary sessions I had was with my teacher. So the person who I'm studying with is it Achutabhava, the Nightlight Astrology. His name's Adam. But I've had 2 horary questions with him, and I've had a couple others, and it's like the most accurate form of reading ever. So I'm doing this 1-year program, really because it's challenging.
Who's teaching it?
His name's Achutabhava.
Okay, well,
it's Nightlight Astrology, but
I'm gonna learn from Candace after Candace.
We're gonna learn because really, I just want to go to like the Westgate, or I want to go to like any like sports book or sports bets, or I want to go to a racetrack and I want to make some fucking money. That's really what I want to do. So
there's a different type of confidence you have when you walk into a room after a horary. You're like, I already know what's about to happen. Oh my god,
that's like literally how I feel. Like one of the horary things already happened, and the timing that he gave me was so bang on. I sent him an email the other day, and I was like, "Fuck." I was like, "You're good," and he's like, "Thanks."
You see, this is where we got the smug look to the skeptics. Like, if only you knew.
Yeah.
If only you knew. We got the cheat codes right here.
I'm super stoked. And what's going to be fun is also like, and I told like a lot of my like close friends and family, I was like, I'm going to need guinea pigs. Mm-hmm. So people who have questions, or maybe people who they already know the answer of what they're going to ask, just for timing purposes, to see if the horary, if I can crack the code. It's like a puzzle. Like you have to sit there and you have to analyze the chart. And
it's like a skill.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, once I know I'm get good at, is it'll be at Forex and horary. And horary with Forex. So like, it is what it is. I know the first time I heard about horary, ironically, was a Scorpio man with a Cancer moon who drank his urine.
He was one of those shamans?
Urine therapy, yeah. A little crazy with it. Like, this dude would drink his pee. But like, other than that,
Cancer moons will drink anything.
Anything, yep.
They will drink
feel
anything
it too.
you give them.
And yeah, I mean, like, he was the first one to introduce me to that concept. Like, oh yeah, dude, like you can know who. He introduced it to me in the realm of sports bets. So that's I thought that was all you could do with it. But I didn't know it.
You can do all kinds of shit. But there are some things that it's kind of like the I Ching or like the tarot. Like, if you're going to keep consulting the oracle, eventually, I guess the oracle can get kind of pissy and kind of short. So it's like you don't want to, you want to come correct when you're doing horary. But I'm excited because the very few times that I've, done that and gone to a reader, it's been pretty fucking accurate, down to like the timing, down to everything. So like there is like a whole, like you said, there's a whole confidence revolving around like after having those readings. And a transit chart, I mean, you really have to dig through, because not all astrologers do transit readings. Some people just analyze needles. But, if you're wanting, at least with me, like I'm like an OCD Scorpio, if you come to me for reading and you want to know if something's going to play out, I'm going to check your transits. I'm going to check your progress chart. I'm going to check your solar return. I'm going to go month by month on a lunar return to try to really see and do all the chart overlays, like exactly when things will happen. And you can do that, but sometimes that'll take an hour to unpack. Like imagine being able to do a horary and looking at a horary for 15 minutes and being like, yeah, it's going to happen and you're going to get the job and you're going to relocate and this will happen and this is probably when. Like,
y'all need to respect astrologers. She just broke down like 5 different charts. I don't want to hear anyone talk about 300 or 500 an hour is too much. Like, we put years into this shit, y'all. Thank you.
Especially people who do readings. Like sometimes, like some astrologers, they don't want to touch that. Some will be like, we're going to do the needle or we're going to do the transits. And they'll talk about the transits piece by piece. But not many people want to like include the solar return chart. I feel like I'm not going to give away all the secret herbs and spices, but I definitely have my like little formulas, and I work with like the Arabic calculators
snap.
and yeah, like all of the different points that you can divide. So if somebody
Right.
says, you know, what's my point of marriage or what's my point of death or whatever, I can find that degree, look at the transits that will happen over a period of time or a solar return, and when it comes up, I can very accurately predict where, when, how. Like there are some things that you just don't want to know. Like now that I know the 2 ways that I'm most likely to die, it's like I'm constantly in a state of like, oh shit, like I can't do that. Like what if I do? Like yeah, don't go down that rabbit hole, okay?
Unless you're a Scorpio. That's the Scorpio knowledge right there.
So now like sometimes the transits will pass and I'll be like, suck on that.
Right.
You know, like and
Said
what's
like a
some
true
final
son Pluto.
destination?
Said like a true son Pluto. I used to be skeptical about solar returns because I was like, this is junk astrology. You mean to tell me that just because this was the chart of my birthday that it's going to be accurate? And 2017 was the year I was a believer because that shit was so accurate. I couldn't believe it.
What was that year? Was it a 10th house year?
It was a 10th house year. My moon was in Virgo on the rising. It was the year I became Magic Mike.
It was the year that you got pregnant?
Oh, no. That was after. That was the year after. I got someone spiritually pregnant because I'm just that high on the lies. And yeah, but like, that was the year I worked with Lotto, became Magic Mike, Make You, and then never had to work a job again.
Yeah. No more muggle jobs, motherfuckers.
That made me for sure like the solar
returns are no joke. Like I'm so hardcore about my solar returns that, and this is what I will tell you that's really telling. When you take your natal chart and you cast the solar return and put it on top, so it would basically be the transits, and then flip it. Then take the solar return and put your natal on top and look at how there are planetary things that happen. Like if you're having a return other than your solar return, let's say it's your Mercury, your Venus, whatever, or if your ascendant moves to your midheaven. There's so much you can see in a solar return, especially with the progressed on top of it too. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, yeah. The progressed is something that I've become like very obsessed with recently, and that, and also like Davidson composite charts. I'm like deep into that too, like because that's, you know, different than a composite chart for a relationship where you take the 2 charts and you put it together, and that's a midpoint composite chart. For me, the Davidson is not just the midpoint, it's the geographical location, the time, and the date that is the midpoint between 2 partners.
Exactly, right.
So like sometimes the composite charts will create aspects that like never happened.
Like Mercury opposite Sun.
Yeah, like shit that doesn't happen. And some astrologers don't, you know, they don't believe in that stuff, or they don't feel like there's any authenticity to it. But
I will say, ironically, in charts that I have that with people, the relationship doesn't work. And it's kind of like the chart, like, not that it doesn't work, it just doesn't come together. I remember I had one where like Mercury was opposite, what was in the same sign as the Sun, but like Venus was opposite the Sun. And it's like the love just never worked out. No, it's not that it never worked out, but it made sense to me. Like, well, this isn't a real chart, so it's like it can't really support like that.
Yeah.
So it really.
But you never really. I mean, I guess you could see.
Or I'll put it on the opposite.
I guess in a synastry, you could see Mercury in opposite to somebody's Sun. You could. In synastry, yeah.
But not the composite.
But not composite. Yeah, because Mercury's never that far away from the Sun.
Exactly.
Yeah, and not a lot of people. But not a lot of people know that because.
And once again, like, you know what I mean? A lot of people from the outside looking in can get frustrated because it's like, why is this so much? Which is still a steal if you think that legitimate astrologers work for kings and queens, so you can't really afford them. But like outside of that, people are so used to people just being like looking at a chart and just saying what they think, charging $40, $60, $100 fucking the game. And it's just like, you know, you get some people who are entitled, like, oh, well, what makes you special? Like, all you're doing. Meanwhile, you don't even know the symbols they're interpreting. So it's like, there's a lot that goes into it that experienced astrologers can make it look easy. But like, it's a lot of years of study.
Yeah, I mean, especially... I mean, but that's how, like, the predictive aspects of when you really get good at astrology and you know how to analyze the returns, and then you start putting them on the natal.
Guess what my solar return was this year?
What?
I'm so happy. It was it's a 1 degree Scorpio rising.
Oh, so it's a year of change. So where was Mars then?
29 degrees Cancer.
What house? It's 5th house cusp?
Ninth house because my
Oh, no, what am
MC
I
is
saying?
Leo.
Okay.
And then I'm a new moon Gemini this year. So something brand new, transformation.
Is it
be unrecognizable.
so you're Scorpio
North
rising
Node.
and you've got a 29-degree Cancer Mars on the midheaven?
Midheaven is going to be like 6 Leo, 4 Leo, and then my Venus is like 7 Cancer.
And then Mars rules the chart, and then...
Oh, because Scorpio rising?
Yeah, and then Mars also rules Aries, which is going to be the
Mars
6th
is
house.
opposite Pluto, by the way.
I'd have to look at it. But that,
Right.
that can be really good for you for some kind of traveling, publishing, connecting to foreign
I feel
places.
like it's going to be new.
You should have me look at that solar return.
I would
I'll
be
tell you what's up.
honored.
Right. I had an 8th house year this year.
This
had an
year that's coming from your last birthday.
From my last birthday. So from my birthday.
8th house year.
Dude, from November of 2020, and it was like Sun, Juno, something else. Sun, Juno, something. It was in the 8th house, and I was in Aries rising with Mars on my ascendant.
Oh, wow.
Retrograde, by the
wow.
way, in opposition to Venus and Mercury and a bunch of planets in my 7th.
Saturn's in my 4th.
Oh, have fun with that. That fucking sucks.
And then I have Uranus right on my DC.
Oh, so you're going to meet somebody who's going to try to get you to move in with them.
Then, okay, we both might get married unexpectedly, so we'll see.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
shit.
you're getting married? Are you talking about me?
Well, with the Uranus and the... Oh, I was talking about me. Like, I might
Oh.
get married unexpectedly. We'll see. Who knows?
Better be that,
Oh,
that
God.
Sag princess.
Oh, my goddess. Holla at me.
I mean, I don't know. The 8th house year was fucking wild, dude. It, like, started, and I was just like, oh, God, who's going to die? And touch wood, nobody's really died. I mean, I had to put my dog down, which was kind of a bummer, but I had moon opposite Neptune. So I had that, and there was just, like, a bunch of insurance stuff and, like, investment stuff, and...
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then I did move because of the opposition from Mars to Venus. It
So it
was
was a
on the ascendant to the
transformation.
7th. So, yeah, look at those solar return, kids. We wanted to talk to you a little bit today about just building off of the
Sun,
video
Moon,
that we
Rising.
did. That was the Sun, Moon, and Rising, which people seem to be really into it. I liked reading the comments and hearing everybody's aspects. So we wanted to build off of that and come and talk to you guys today about the difference between the IC, the descendant, and the MC, because that's kind of the next step in filling in the blanks. Like,
Yep.
anybody can go and learn about their sun sign, but not a lot of people realize the importance of the angles in a natal chart.
Oh,
So
my God.
we're going to talk about that today, and then we're going to come back, and we're also probably going to start talking in separate episodes about the houses and also the planets. Maybe we'll even do some archetypal stuff on the signs. So that way you're getting kind of like a crash course in understanding of just like the system of the astrological wheel, and where you can go deeper other than just looking at your sun sign. So
Beautiful. And I know, like, for solar returns and other charts, like, when they're in the angular houses, it usually is life-changing, or it's usually establishing, like, a new personification. I've definitely been sleeping on that IC. It's a lot more important than I've given it credit for.
I think the more that I learn about the IC, the more that I'm like, oh yeah, that really is me. So those of you guys who don't know, if you're looking at a natal chart, I have to kind of like look at this. I'm visual, sorry. So if you look at the natal chart, the 9 o'clock hour is your ascendant. Okay, and we talked about that in the last video. It's just more about your appearance, how you came into this world, how you approach people, what you look like, right? Am I missing anything?
12, 3, 6, 9. Yep, that's true.
And then the 6 o'clock hour is the IC. So that's the most southern part of your chart. We're going to talk about what that means. And then the 3 o'clock hour is your descendant, or your, I guess, what is it, DC or DES?
DC.
And so that represents your shadow self or your
Descending,
7th
right.
house cusp. And then your MC or your midheaven being the 10th house cusp, and it's the 12 o'clock hour. It's the highest point in your chart. So we're going to break that down and talk to you guys a little bit about how you can learn more about yourself based off of these angles.
I know a story I have about the 4th house when Jupiter was transiting in Leo and went through there. I was at a place where, let's see, was it 2016? There was 2015 actually that happened. So this was after this was after 2014 when I went to Kansas because my mom caught me smoking weed in her house, and she felt that El Paso was a bad influence for me, being a border town, and I needed a father figure. So I moved to my uncle's place in Kansas. This was around the time I started my YouTube channel, and he kicked me out his house because I was an astrologer and all that. And I began my journey. I moved to California. I was in Koreatown for like a few months. Then I moved back to El Paso.
I would too if I lived in K-Town. Fuck, I lived on the border of K-Town for a couple of years. That was enough for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I was
that
on
was enough for me. That was
Wilshire and Normandy.
And there's nowhere to park there.
Oh my God,
There's
that's true.
nowhere to park there. And people steal your rims, even if you drive a piece of shit car.
Thank God I was riding the metro. Holy shit. I was on a Wilshire and Normandy for like a few months. Went back to El Paso just because. And then that was when my mom was kind of still a little bit fed up at like my influences, and she encouraged me. I was actually getting ready to move to California just to like strike my life out there. And my mom convinced me, or not convinced me, my mom got the idea that, no, actually, I want you to go to Nigeria so that you can stay with your dad and he can kind of like, this is before they divorced, and so that he can kind of like teach you how to like sell houses out there and build houses and whatnot, just to be out there. And it was ironic because Jupiter had just went through my 4th, so I unexpectedly go to Nigeria, and like the plan was for me to be out there for a few years. And I would say a couple of weeks after I was there, my mom visited and she left, my grandma dies. And so we do her funeral. And the thing that really, caught, of course, in the funeral, the pastor's talking shit like, oh, those of you who read astrology are going to hell, and, your or he wasn't talking to me, but he was talking to me. Like, I'm sure they didn't know I did that, but like, it was just kind of like a subliminal, right? So the part of the sermon was talking about how, oh yeah, she was a seer, because my dad, this was my dad's mom who died, right? My grandma. So my dad is skeptical about magic and like psychic ability and stuff, but he'll tell you that his mom would tell him about stuff that there's no way she would know. Like, he'll tell you she had real seer powers, but she gave all that up to be a Christian. Just like on my mom's side, his dad and mom gave that up to be a Christian. So I found out she had all sorts of like, sacred seer powers, right. And then, but the message of there was like, she gave that up for God, and this is a good thing, and those of you who do that, you're going to hell. I was like, okay, whatever. I felt that was for me to tap to the ancestry and be like, hey, they rejected you, but I got you. I'm not a Bible thumping like.
Yeah, you're like down to do shots at the bar in hell with your ancestors.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
I know about hell,
because that's how I see it.
If it has to be that way, I see you though. Yeah, I feel that. So that kind of whole trip, and then of course after Jupiter left Leo, while I was there, I had my my business, so I was doing readings, and I was able to get enough money to buy a ticket to go back. And my dad at the time, I didn't realize where his mind was at, but he was like overjoyed. He was like, "Oh, nice." He wasn't mad. He was like, oh, "Okay, cool." And so I didn't realize that whole Jupiter chapter was to teach me about my ancestry, because I got to learn so much stuff about where I come from, where my parents were influenced, and then as soon as that was out, I was out. And then I came back to America. And
so basically what he's getting at is he's talking about transits where when a planet ingressed into his 4th house, it had to cross the IC.
Yeah.
So it made things happen. So like for me, and I've had similar experiences, like I definitely
always see someone who moves too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, like always. And the IC, I think, is actually the most sensitive part of the chart. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, it's like the womb of the natal chart. So
or the soul.
You can't, and that's where the soul comes through. It's the ground. Traditionally, the 4th house dealt with the burial underneath the home.
So it's house of death too.
Yes and no. The house of burial, death being 8th, and then
I had a reader look at my 4th house, and she said the ruler of your 4th house is the sun, because it's Leo.
Yeah.
And it's in the 2nd. So she told me my conditions of death, that if I died, I'd still have my mind ready, because like it's in the second house in Gemini.
Yeah.
So that at death, I'd still have a very active mind, and it's the sun, and I might like she was able to kind of like look at the ruler of your fourth and to know your
you can see
conditions of
you
death.
can see a lot based off of the fourth and the eighth house, but whether the eighth house is how you die, the fourth is like, you know, your end of life leading up to that, or in theory your burial. So when you see like a lot of planets that are really heavy in the fourth house or conjunct the IC, that's very important to have like a planet on that angle. It's very private. She said I was gonna be
rich as fuck too.
Yeah, because of your second house sun.
Yeah, and like it was gonna be like
all second house suns have that
life.
as long as they have good aspects granted to like the planet, or if the sun is in the second house and the blue of the second house. But see, my sun's in the second house too, but it says that my husband's supposed to be very wealthy. So.
There we go.
I'm just gonna let that happen.
Bingo. That's what's up. Astrology don't miss, yo.
But yeah, it's the most sensitive part of the chart. I feel like it's the inner world. It's the inner you. It's what people don't see. So when you think like, if you leave your house and you go out of the house and you're all done up and you're presentable and you're friendly and you've got like this, you know, persona for out in the world, the fourth house is like when you come home and you take your makeup off. Or like what your house really looks like, or what your closet really looks like, or what's going on internally. So it's the private self, and also it's very Cancerian. So it reflects on the roots, it reflects on the past, it reflects on the family lineage, where you come from, you know, family patterning. I've seen a lot of stuff there, and it's just super private. It's super, super, super private. I've seen people who have, you know, their sun and all kinds of, you know, major planetary aspects in the top part of their chart. But then when you look at stuff that's going on in the fourth house, like a great example is like Tiger Woods, right?
Right.
He's a great example because you see the Cap Sun and all the placements in his fourth house. And also I think he's got the moon in the third in Sag. But he was this huge public image. Everybody knows him. You know, he's...
household name.
He's huge. But what has transpired over the last, let's say, 10, 12 years due to, you know, Pluto going into his fourth house, due to Saturn, due to Jupiter... it has blown all of his personal life, his relationship with his dad, how he was with his kids, what happened with his wife. It just shows you where if you've got some heavy hitters, either they're natally or moving through there,
yep.
It makes some shit happen.
I have a question for you. So one thing I noticed is that like my fourth house is empty. So like my concept of family, like I notice people who have a rich fourth house, like they're very family oriented. Like they really love family events, or like I kind of feel like a stranger to my own family. I'm the black sheep, and my south node's there, so I love it now. Like I wouldn't feel bad about it. It's like I get it. It's a part of my karmic lesson. But I noticed that, you know, the nature of the fourth house really shows a lot about, especially when you're growing up in the home. So the moon is your mom. I have Saturn on my moon in the 9th house. My younger sister is a Libra rising with a Gemini moon, and my mom's a Gemini sun. So my mom, as I've always...
Was your mom like a teacher, or did she work in the church?
She actually was she's a pediatrician, but when we would go to Sunday schools, there was one time she was a Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
But like growing up with my mom, we had Bible study every week. So like she was the traditional Christian influence. Like she's Saturn in my life. She cuts the check. She owns her own practice. I used to work for her, bill her own insurance claims, Saturn in the 8th, 9th. So that was my experience. My sister's experience with my mom, as a Cancer woman, she feels like as a Gemini mother, like she could be insensitive sometimes to how she feels.
12 houses away, yeah.
Right, and then as a Libra rising, it's like in the 9th. So my mom was also a teacher influence to her, but more intellectually, right? Like none of us really ever got a more nurturing Cancerian motherly aspect from my mom. It was totally just like intellectual. My mom would be at work to this day, night to day, Cap Moon, like she works all the time.
Yeah.
So as a Leo fourth house, and as a man, I'm allowed to go out, right? Like I can't do what I want, right? But like I can do what I want. Like I can.
But it's a reflection also of your dad. Just like my mind just goes like in a million different places as I hear you describe this. But like also, you know, if your sun rules your south node, and your south node's in your fourth, ruled by the sun technically in the first. Maybe the second. Okay, you could say the second, but it's a first house sun in theory. Yeah. You take after your dad. You have independence from your mom. So if your south node's in this, and we'll do another episode on this. This is next,
deep.
but your south
Yeah.
node's in the 4th, so you're meant to move away from your home, move away from your roots. It's
Right.
harder for you to stay home with your parents.
There's always some
And
kind
your
of
father
friction.
had to physically leave the home
Yeah.
by himself, and then you see the inconjunct from your sun, which is your dad, to your sun and your moon and your
That's real.
Saturn, which is the separation between your parents. But what legally bound them was their joint resources that came from the homes that they sold, which was the 8th house.
And also, which is wild because my dad recently sold a house in Nigeria and made like a fortune from it. But personally, you know, I completely forgot what I was going to say. But personally, like concerning the at least the sun, you know, like the well.
The sign also on the cusp of the angles. So just talking about the IC,
Yeah.
the sign's going to tell you a lot about what the state of the home was. So, you know, usually wherever the sun rules or wherever the sun is, it dominates. So if you have a Leo 4th house with the south node ruled by the sun, you might have felt like from an early age, you know, dad kind of ran the house. Even though mom cut the checks, dad ran the house, or he was kind of like a heavy hitter.
My dad cut the checks too in the beginning because he, like, I grew up with like a Rolls Royce from Luther Vandross, another Rolls Royce, a Jaguar, a Porsche, because he was heavy in Wall Street.
Yeah.
Then he got cracked down, so then he had to do a bid, and then he deported after, right? And then, but what I was gonna say was the KRS video I watched. Shout out to KRS, amazing astrologer. He mentioned that
Love KRS.
when Saturn's in your 9th house, your higher education is delayed, which happened for me. I graduated later. And your relationship with your father improves after 30. So I never really connected with my dad that much. Not like he wasn't in our lives. He wasn't, but for different reasons, right? And as an Aries, I don't hold it past him because Aries is very self-centered and like, it's the baby of the zodiac. Like, I'm willing to like see where he was coming from or at least like understand, right? But personally, now I'm seeing, now that I'm 30, the opportunity to connect with him on a more mature level is there. I graduated at a later time. And the question I wanted to ask you was, my youngest sister, with her IC in Capricorn, she easily is the most restricted. She's studying in Stanford right now. She wants to be a singer. You know what I mean? So
I have a Cap IC too.
she has a great opportunity
It's a
at
lot of
Stanford.
like emotional rigidness and like.
So that's what I wanted to ask, because
coldness,
like she couldn't really go out like I could go out. Like she
Yeah.
felt trapped in her own house, like, and the structure and the like.
Yeah.
So how was that for you?
It's always a very strict parent. And that's the other thing that's interesting about the 4th and the 10th house, because a lot of astrologers go
Saturn
back and
and
forth
Pisces.
about whether or not the 4th house is the mother or the father.
Right.
Some people say it's the mother because it's more like a Cancer energy. Some people say it's
Some people say it's the
father.
father?
Yeah, some people say it's the father. For me, I've seen
Not
it
the 10th
differ
house?
on a client-to-client basis.
That's interesting.
Like for me, like my 4th house is Capricorn. I have a lot of planets in Capricorn. My mom's a Capricorn. And I feel like because I have oppositions from my 10th house to my 4th, I feel like my dad's more like my Jupiter in the 10th. And my mom is definitely like all the planets I have in the 4th house. But yeah, the signs that are on the IC, even if it's not whole house, if it's Placidus and it's split, it's what you want to look at is what's on the IC, because it's going to tell you the vibe of what it was like emotionally, how you are in your private life. You want to move on to the descendant?
Yeah, so the DC, they do say is a shadow, but I've really come to respect the DC as far as like, you know, definitely, I know when Saturn and Jupiter went through there, I started collaborating with more people. I have an empty DC, so I've never been in a relationship. And it's not like I can't be in one.
You have to look at the aspects too of what
right.
it rules.
And the chart ruler too, right?
Yeah, so if it's like Scorpio, it might be like kind of like fearful or finding some people too intense, or
I have
the
a Pluto
fear-
shadow, so I attract people who try and test me and like take advantage of me because it's a shadow aspect. And I don't want to say take advantage like I'm a victim, but like we'll kind of push the boundaries to see what they can finesse. I think that might unconsciously have me push people out, but I don't know. It's a very sexual DC counterpart. So I have Venus in the 12, a lot of secret admirers. So it is what it is. But the DC aspect is very fascinating to me because I didn't realize how unconsciously it's the version of you that you may not be aware you come off to across
100%.
Right.
100%. I mean, maybe I'm more aware of it because I have my moon in the 7th.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like I
That's
see
true.
like that behavior in other people and I'm like, fuck you. But then I'm like, wait, I'm just as much of an asshole. Like half of the things that I deal with other people. And the 7th house isn't just the person that you're married to. This can be your clients. This can be
open enemies. Yeah.
People who you're in business with. People who will stab you in the chest, not in the back. So like I said, maybe I'm more aware of it, but
12th house will stab you in the back. But the
but like
7th house.
the 7th house is literally the shadow self. I feel like and that's what's so interesting. Like I have found that especially in clients' charts where they've had long running existing relationships, I've seen a lot of aspects to the ascendant or the descendant. So if you're, for example, like, Scorpio rising, you might have a lot of Scorpios that are in your life and you're like, why the fuck do I have all these Scorpios in my life? Well, because they're a reflection of your rising. They're helping build into who you are. You attract it. It's like a bug to a flame or a moth to a flame. But the descendant is sometimes what is really good for you, but it can put you off unless you have a lot of aspects. Like for me personally, like the very few encounters I've had with Aries men, I'm like, I'll pass. I'm good. Like I'll date a woman. Like I can't do that. Like I can't
date a woman.
I can't do that.
I think the moon sign helps a lot too. Well, your moon is in Aries.
Yeah.
And I would think that I was always under the impression that moon sun is it. So like if someone's sun is on your moon, is it? So that's very interesting. I guess the sun quincunx and the opposition of the rising factors in. So I mean, the two partners in my life right now, which is ironic, are Scorpios because shout out to Esco, that's my dude right there. He's helping manage my site. He falls in my 7th house. So we kind of work in a partnership, and then of course I'm partnering with you on this. And
I'm his work wife,
which is kind of crazy because the Scorpio is 6th house of work to my Gemini, and then of course the partnership to the Taurus. So
yeah, but what's being activated in your chart right now is a yod. Because you've got all this activity in Scorpio natally, you've also got all these placements in Capricorn natally, and it all makes a yod to your sun. It's being activated right now because of the node. So there's a lot of cool things going on for the Scorpios, Geminis from 1989 because of those yods, the finger of fate that's getting activated. But
I also noticed that the DC, it's an opposing energy. So it's like you have to be okay with compromise or with seeing how people in that energy are literally opposite you. Even if you agree with the same things, it's like I've come to see the DC in 7th house as a completion energy where you oppose because you complement each other.
I remember reading an article at one point, and I'm probably gonna I'm gonna botch this, but whatever. It was talking about how the houses work in terms of timing, and that medieval astrologers looked at the houses in terms of time or hours throughout the day. And we would look at the first house as like when you wake up. You look at the second house as like maybe when you eat breakfast, then you go to work, you start working, you start creating things, working on things. And then the 6th house is like when you're cleaning up. And then the 7th house being like that door to Venus is that time after you've gotten home, cleaned up, and it's like, okay, cool, now I can like hang out and go on a date or go and have dinner with my partner or, drink wine, hang out, have sex, whatever. So the 7th house really does represent where we merge with other people on a daily basis and what that feels like and what might be good for us. And like 7th house gets a bad rap, or Libra gets a bad rap for like being like a pushover or like too much of a yes person, when in reality the 7th house is about open conflict. So it's when you have to be fair and mediate, and then also when you have to slap a bitch and be like, no,
because you need to bring the Aries to the Libra. So that's true.
And it's like it's so weird for me because I have Libra rising and I have a 7th house Aries moon. So I'll be like super friendly, and then like sometimes you'll like get a response out of me that you're not expecting. And I'll just do it just to razz people. Like now I'm at a point in my life where I do it just to see what I can get away with and to see if people are gonna like check me. And then when they don't, I'm like, you're cool.
Who checks Sun Pluto? Like that's interesting.
Not a lot of people will realize that, because Libra rising Scorpios are very friendly. We're very friendly, very personable, but like you cross me, like I'm gonna come for you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's all like, I'm gonna scoot over a little bit.
The Scorpio DC is like, oh, that's what's up. You know, I got Juno there too. So I feel like, I don't know. That's the thing, like
Maybe I'll introduce you to your wife.
I mean, you gave me that reading. You said it's Scorpio.
I'm gonna find you. I'm still going through those applications.
Oh my God. Yep, boy. That's wild. So wifey applications coming out soon. But yeah, I mean, it's wild because, and if we get into the MC, like some people feel like if there's no planets there, it's not empty, but it just means it's not an area of focus. But transits, I've noticed, really developed this. So the MC has been the most active place for me as of late, and I've seen expansion in my career, solidification of my career. MC I've come to love so much, because whereas the IC is your inner world, the MC to me is like kind of like your alter ego, but also your higher self, like the version of you that you're coming to attain.
Yeah, it's the highest peak, right? Like when you think of like Capricorn, how like the goat scales the mountain and it gets to the top. It's when you get to your peak in your life and your career, whatever, like what you ultimately come into. It also is how other people perceive you.
Right.
Like I see the ascendant as what you present, and I see the MC as more what people see from you. So like the actual like, you know, sign that's on the MC can tell you like a lot. Like today, actually the sun's conjunct my MC right now.
Oh wow.
So for me, it's like I'm a little bit more like business oriented. I'm working a lot. I'm juggling a lot of things, and my MC is Cancer, so it's definitely a lot of being very nurturing in my career and talking to people a lot about emotions in the past and family issues and using my intuition. And the MC is a lot of what you see. So when you have it in a very prominent sign, or let's say there's planets that are even conjunct there, or like you said, there's a transit, it makes shit happen. Yeah.
And you also want to look at the chart rulers to the MC, IC, the
Even
DC.
if you have an empty house, like a lot of people will be like, well, I have an empty house, meh, like it doesn't mean anything. And then I'll be like, yeah, but look at the house ruler and like look at the 12 aspects to it. And that's where people don't realize that you're sleeping on those house rulers, and you need to look at the aspects. And people will show up like, oh, I've got big dick energy, I have 2 stelliums. I would be like, that's great, but you know, having all those planets conjunct can make you really good in certain areas, but it can actually be a bit of a downfall in other areas of your life because you don't have that same support. I guess granted, that's where when you go through like a Saturn transit or a Jupiter transit, it's like a lot of compounded lessons all in one period of time.
So true. For example, my MC is Aquarius, right? So
you're an alien?
It falls into the 9th house. So I teach about Aquarius, I teach about the stars. But the ruler of it is in the 8th, 9th in Capricorn. So near Neptune. So what do I teach about the stars? The occult. I go into the occult, I go into more like the hidden knowledge, and I didn't realize how fascinating that was until after the fact that I looked up the ruler and the aspects, and even though it's empty, I only have the North Node there, like this aspects to the ruler makes so much of a difference.
I haven't really thought about that. Like my MC is Cancer and my moon is in Aries, and it's in the it's in the 7th, and it trines my South Node exactly. So I have a lot of astrology friends who are also very public, and it sextiles my North Node in the 5th. So that's my creative outlet, you know, and yeah, I don't know. I think the MC is like really cool because I feel like that's more like who you grow into being. Right?
It's who you become over time. I love that. And I love transits to there because it really does help. Your MC is who you are to the world. And so I love how it squares the AC. But we'll definitely talk more about these points. This is just a good
it's like a nice like, little introductory. And like I said, we're going to come on because if you guys haven't checked it out, check out our, obviously if you can, like and subscribe to our channel or to this video. Also, you can take a look at our community section on the Midheaven podcast. We actually started asking you guys what do you want to know about? What do you want us to do videos on? We had a lot of great responses. We heard a lot of people ask about past lives, nodal things, aspects. People were asking about our charts. We talk about them a lot, but we could do that at some point. And also people were asking questions about like planets and houses. So this is just the beginning. We're actually getting ready to shoot another episode, and it's going to be on the nodes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that's coming up soon. But continue to keep interacting with us on there or on our various other platforms. And if you have ideas or questions for videos or content, things you want to know about.
We can do chart breakdowns too if you want us to like break down celebrity charts or like influencer charts.
Yeah. Do you ever like do charts live? Like when you do your lives, do you show the chart? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is we both have our own channels. So you can find Mike below. You can see the Peace Dealer. You can also book a reading with him. You can find me at Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology, where I am doing weekly stuff. Actually, twice a month now. I come on Fridays and I just analyze charts and I answer questions publicly, so you can see how I analyze the chart. And hopefully doing a study club soon. So
yep.
Got a lot of fun stuff coming.
I'm gonna be meeting live too for those of you in Vegas. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. We've got our giveaway. So those of you guys who participated in the giveaway, I'm guessing by the time this episode comes out, we'll have already picked the winner. But stay tuned for that future episode where we're gonna hang out with somebody here live in Vegas. Those of you guys who participated, thank you, and thank those of you who have been contributing to our channel and subscribing and helping donate monthly to keep this running. You guys are the best. It's helping us get new equipment. Obviously, we have new mics. We might be getting some other camera stuff, and just trying to be able to bring you guys more content and making it super, super clean.
Sweet.
Anything else?
Nah, if anything, comment below what you feel about this episode. What's your favorite angular point? Is it the AC, DC, IC, MC? And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in as always.
Cool. Well, we will see all of you guys very soon. Have a good one. Take care.